Let's bring in Daniel Kebede, should be General Secretary of the National Education Union. Hi, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on the programme. What did you make of what the Education Secretary had to say?
I mean, I found the interview fairly painful, to be honest. She seems to be an education...
I did my best.
Oh, I think she's an Education Secretary clearly under a lot of stress with a Department for Education that is in absolute disarray. We're seeing them make up guidance very quickly. On the Thursday night, they're saying that porta cabins won't be funded. On the Friday morning, they're saying they will be funded. They are contacting schools last minute to inform them of closure. Last night, I saw at 8:02 on Twitter, the Department for Education putting out a tweet requesting that school leaderships complete RAC surveys. This is not a government that is in control. It's a government of chaos.
But you must be content that we heard from the Education Secretary this morning that everything is going to be funded from her budget.
Yeah, I find that quite a bit of a fantasy idea, to be honest. When you look at the amount of schools that, firstly, we don't know the status of lots of schools, which is a problem. But, building schools for the future, which would have brought all schools up to date by now, eliminated RAC, that was a £55 billion a year project. That's not in the remit of the current DFE budget. There is some serious expenditure that needs to happen, and the government should commit to that.
What did you make of the fact that she spent, as Education Secretary, she's responsible for £32 million being spent on new officers?
Well, that's not a priority decision as far as I'm concerned. The priority is that we see some real investment in our schools, including the capital spend. What we saw in 2010 was the annual spend on capital buildings was 4.6 billion, around 7 billion in today's money. By 2012 and 2013, that had halved to 2.6. In fact, last year, the government only spent 2.6 billion on the school estate. Now, the Office for Government Property, their own office, highlight that to keep schools up to scratch, it needs £7 billion a year investment. There's been chronic underfunding, not just in per pupil spending, but on the school estate, and our children absolutely deserve better.
The Education Secretary didn't seem concerned about crumbling concrete exposing asbestos, are you?
Well, look, I'm a parent as well as a representative of teachers and school staff. My child will be starting school tomorrow. I, like every parent, am concerned about the current situation. The fact of the matter is there's about 90% of schools that still contain asbestos. And when you mix that with crumbling concrete, there's a real mix of risks that is well beyond what we should expect our children to be exposed to.
So she is wrong not to be concerned about that?
I think she is wrong, yes. I think that it is a concern, and I think the priority for government now is to publish a list of affected schools. They also need to find out which schools are impacted by RAC.
But they do need schools to help them with that, and many of them haven't been.
Well, they do need schools to be able to assist them, but I think it's very typical of this government to blame schools for their own failings. They've had plenty of time to sort this problem out. RAC was a material, used to rebuild post-war Britain. They knew it had a 30-year shelf life. This is not a new crisis. The government could have taken a staged approach. Instead, we are now facing the reality of our own children being in classrooms with internal scaffolding and walls, ceilings crumbling. This situation's not tenable. They should publish the list. They should commit to the extra funding, but they should also reassure parents and give a timescale of when work will be completed.
I did also press her on whether this work should have been done during COVID when schools were closed anyway. She didn't feel that that was an appropriate timing.
Well, I think it would have been a very appropriate timing when, schools were forced to move to remote learning, again, because of a failure of this government to invest. What we do really absolutely need to see is a change in direction when it comes to our children. They absolutely deserve to be in schools that are not going to crumble around them. And every parent has the right to expect their child to be in a school in which they're safe.
Yeah. Do you think that Labour would provide more money in order to be able to build new schools and to refurbish those schools that need to be done urgently?
Well, I think building schools for the future, their previous policy that was axed by Michael Gove in 2010 was very good. I'd like to see them recommit to that, indeed. You know, whether
So just
they...
to clarify, what do you want them to recommit to? Because they're on the sofa in the next few minutes, so I can put it to them.
I would absolutely like to see Labour recommit to serious capital investment in the school estate. Building schools for the future was a project that would have by now brought all schools, 25,000 schools, up to standard. There would be no rack. To be honest, you know, we are all paying the price of government austerity.
First day at school for your child tomorrow?
Yes.
Very first day at school?
No, he's going into year 1.
Oh, is he? Oh, well, I hope it goes well.
Thank you
Thanks very
much.
much indeed. Thank you.